as you hear when I outline some of the stuff off the field, have been just as successful off the field as they have been on the field. And that's because, again, that core character qualities that they have that allow them to be great. So this is an exciting opportunity for us. We'd love to put this program on, just personally to be able to moderate this program for the last year and a half with all these great individuals. There's been a lot of stuff that I've taken notes on. I have my pen and paper out here to take notes as well, because there's things that I learned from our Hall of Famers that I try to apply to my life as well. So it's a learning opportunity not only for the students here, but I think for all the adults, administrators, and a number of other folks that are tuned in here today. So we just want to thank all of you for being here. Obviously, we have to thank some folks. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible. First of all, we have to thank our good friends at Cisco. Bob Gardner there helped set up a system there at Deer Valley Unified School District to allow Mr. Wilcox to broadcast out to us. So Bob and Cisco, I want to say thank you very much for your help with this program. We also want to thank the folks at Deer Valley Unified School District, because they have not only this site that they allowed Mr. Wilcox to come into to broadcast from, they have another site, one of their other district offices has got a number of administrators and superintendent and some other folks. I want to say welcome to you folks out there, but I also want to say thank you for allowing us to host this in your school district. I know that it takes planning and time, so we greatly appreciate that as well. We definitely cannot forget our good friends at eTech Ohio, because every one of these broadcasts we do, we work through eTech Ohio, through our State Department of Education. They're the ones that make it possible for us to connect to 5, 10, 15, 20 sites whenever we want to do these programs. So Josh and Jason and Mark, I think, is the new guy down there in Columbus. I know they're tuning in, watching behind the scenes. Thank you for all your support of our educational programs. We want to thank the teachers for participating here. Obviously, there's a lot of planning that goes into making an event possible at your school, so we want to thank you for that. But first and foremost, we've got to thank the stars of the show, because they're the ones that are going to drive the program. I want to say thank you to the students for tuning in here. And, you know, I know you guys have done a lot of prep work. I know many of you have done some research on Mr. Wilcox's background, seen some of the videos that I showed you. I'll show you another one here in just a moment. We want to thank you for your efforts in making this a great program here today. So thank you again. But what we want to do is allow all the schools the opportunity to give a little shout out to their school. Okay, so when I call upon your school, first of all, let me preface this by saying, teachers, close the door on your classroom that you're connected in, and my apologies for allowing your kids to shout in your building. If you're in the library and you don't have doors to close, I'm sorry. So let's go ahead and let's show some school spirit. Let's go to one of our first schools that's connected here, and let's go to Huntsville, Alabama. Our good friends at Mountain Gap. Go ahead and give a shout out if you'd like.
Roll Tide! Roll Tide! They gave a Roll Tide to you for Alabama football.
Mountain Gap, that was pretty weak. Let's try that again.
Roll Tide!
All right, there's a little more enthusiasm. Thank you very much. And Penny, how are you doing?
We're doing great. We brought in a great class for you today.
Good. We're excited to have you guys tuned in here today. And let's go all the way to California. And let's say hello to our friends at Washington Elementary. If you want to go ahead and give a shout out, Washington, go ahead.
What?
Okay, thank you, Washington Elementary, for that exciting welcome. So go ahead and mute your mics there. Let's stay in the state of California, and let's go to Kit Carson in Hanford, California. Go ahead, Kit Carson. Kit Carson? The other California school? You guys were connected earlier? Okay, we'll come back to you in just a moment. Maybe you guys got disconnected there. Let's go to our good friends in Texas at Aspermont. All right. Thank you very much. See, I'm on the big screen. I love it every time we connect in there. So, and then last but definitely not least, let's go to Cincinnati, New York.
Go. Let's go!
Okay. Thank you. You got an enthusiastic young man up front there. I think you messed your hair up front there. But go ahead. So thank you, Cincinnati. We want to thank you to all the schools. Just a reminder to all the schools, a couple things. We want to give a couple ground rules real quick. Is number one, please make sure to keep your microphones muted throughout the entire program. And we will call upon you when it's time for the Q&A session, just so we can minimize, or not even minimize, but eliminate any distractions throughout that. And even after we have you ask your question, make sure to mute your microphones afterwards, just so we don't pick up any background noise or anything like that, so we can eliminate all those distractions for all the schools that are tuning in here. Okay, sound good to everyone? Just go ahead and nod your head yes. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Well, I would like to introduce our Hall of Famer here today, Mr. Dave Wilcox. And Mr. Wilcox, let me give you some information about him before we ask him to share his opening remarks. He was a third-round draft pick in 1964. He was also drafted by the Houston Oilers at that time of the AFL. You guys might know AFL, NFL is now the AFC, NFC. He was nicknamed the Intimidator, and I think you'll see with this highlight film why he was nicknamed the Intimidator, for his aggressive style of play. He was considered by many to be the finest outside linebacker of his era, particularly effective at keeping tight ends from getting off the line. He prided himself on not allowing opponents to block him. He was all NFL 5 times. He was second team all NFL 3 other times. He was named all NFC 3 times and elected to 7 Pro Bowls. Off the field, and we always like to share information off the field because I think you'll find that their careers have been just as remarkable in that regard as well. First and foremost, Mr. Wilcox owned, with a partner, he owned, think about this, he owned 2 health clubs as well as a therapy business for 30 plus years. So he's a successful businessman throughout his career. He's big into education. For all the educators that are tuned in here today, he was also on the Junction City School Board for 11 years. But we also not only like to emphasize their off the field accomplishments as well, but you'll find one of the things that when we start talking about these pillars of character, and we start talking about citizenship and honesty and trustworthiness and those things, you'll find that a lot of our Hall of Famers are doing a lot of things off the field, using their name and the Hall of Fame credential with it to help get into foundations and all kinds of nonprofit organizations to do that. So let me go ahead and read a little bit about some of those things. A lifelong farmer, Mr. Wilcox, along with a group of other farmers, was able to build a new high school football field for a high school in the state of Oregon. He also worked together with other University of Oregon people to build 2 new football practice fields for the Ducks, as Mr. Wilcox put it in his little bio that he sent me. He's been involved with numerous fundraising efforts for events and organizations like the Providence Children's Hospital in Portland. He's a hunter. He's into car restoration. He had a couple projects I think he's got going on, and a couple other projects that I think he wishes that he had going on. And most importantly, he's a family man. He currently resides in Junction City, Oregon, so he's in the state of Arizona right now. He's on vacation there for a while. I think he goes there every year. He has 2 children, Justin and Josh. So before we ask Mr. Wilcox to share his opening remarks, let's go ahead and let me show you guys real quick a little video on him.
Nicknamed the Intimidator, Dave Wilcox prowled the field for 11 seasons as an outside linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers. Wilcox was the type of player every team wanted. He was a natural leader who thrived on contact. Wilcox had an instinctive ability to find the football and disrupt the offense. He was an exceptional tackler with long arms and great foot speed to corral any runner. Playing for the 49ers before their championship run, Wilcox received many accolades, including 4 All-Pro selections and 7 Pro Bowl invitations. His fiery determination and smarts helped him become one of the most feared linebackers in history.
Okay, if all the schools for a moment can unmute your mics and join me in giving a round of applause to Hall of Famer Dave Wilcox. And if we can have all the schools go ahead and mute your microphones. Mr. Wilcox, the microphone's yours for any opening remarks you'd like to share.
So I'm supposed to talk to all these people? There's more.
Yes, you are.
There's more people on this whole view thing than in the town where I grew up. So I've never seen this many people in one group before. So anyhow, it's nice to be here, and the kids and stuff is really, this is what our future is the kids that are sitting in the schools around the country here. And so yeah, I would say, really fortunate to be able to do what I got to do. It was kind of a dream when I was growing up. I don't know if I give you a little background about my family and stuff. My parents moved out from Oklahoma in 1936 and homesteaded a place in Eastern Oregon. And homesteaded means you took the farm out of the rocks and the sagebrush and you've made ditches to grow stuff. And we milked cows and I stacked bales and we moved irrigation pipe and did all of this and went to school. Our grade school, my 8th grade class was 8 kids. And we get together once in a while and we can't remember who the 8th one was. So then the high school that I went to was about 12 miles from where the farm was, and we'd catch a bus to the high school. I started playing football when I was a freshman in high school. We listened to the radio, and I'll tell you a couple of things that I listened to. But we'd go to high school. You'd practice football, and we'd hitchhike home, and there was farmers and stuff, so it wasn't like it is today. When I was a sophomore in high school, we played football and basketball and baseball. In the summertime, we didn't get to play anything because it was time to go to work if we wanted to eat. So we were a friend of mine, we were playing basketball, and this was in February, I believe it was the 24th of February on a Saturday night, and we were driving home, and a guy that I usually rode home with, and there was 3 other kids in the car, had a head-on crash and killed 3 of the kids. Well, a friend of mine and I usually rode with those people in that car, and a friend of mine on the previous day had gotten his driver's license and asked me to ride home with him. If he hadn't had that license, I would have been in that car with those kids. So, yeah, lucky stars. Somebody's watching out for me. Anyhow, I had 6 brothers and 1 sister. My sister was basically in charge of all of us, and thank God for her. I have an older brother, just older than myself, played with the Philadelphia Eagles in 1960, won the championship, decided that was enough. Ended up being a women's basketball coach at Walla Walla, Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington for almost 30 years. He was a teacher. His first teaching job, I think, was in Boise, Idaho. Anyhow, I had a brother that in 1950, he was 12 years old, had a brain tumor. It ruined his optic nerve, and he became blind. And I know people always talked about, and he grew up on the farm, he loved horses, and he did all that, and he did things incredible. He trained German short-haired bird dogs, and back in the 50s, used to sell those bird dogs to avid hunters for $1,500. That was unheard of. And he did all that by himself. How he did it, I have no idea. Other than, people used to ask him, Kyle, is it terrible to be blind? He said, well, I would hate to be deaf. So my point is, no matter what problem you have, somebody else has got a lot worse things off. So whatever you have, feel very fortunate you have what you have. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't strive to do other things. You should. But don't forget where you come from. And I think we talk about this all the time with family members and friends and stuff. We grew up, our house, and remember I told you there were 6 brothers and 1 sister. Our house was 812 square feet. I have no idea how we survived in that house. And in Eastern Oregon in the wintertime, it was snowing and blowing and wind and stuff. My dad, we raised sheep also and had a barn. And then in February when it was real cold, I don't know if it was planned that way, but they would have the lambing and my dad would set the barn up to take care of the sheep. It was warmer in the barn with the sheep than it was in our house. But somehow we survived. I was a sophomore in high school, and we got an indoor bathroom. And I'm thinking, boy, is this something. The next year, we got a phone, and on the phone was a party line. and I think it must have been all the people out in our area or something, because you'd pick up the phone and say, Mr. Jackson, could you please get off the phone? My mom needs to call the doctor. Oh, okay. So that's the way we did things. But we were happy. Everybody was in the same boat. It's not like somebody had a big house somewhere, because all the people there were hard-working people. So my background comes, I think about my brother that was blind. And have you ever tried to close your eyes and walk around a room? I mean, he had to do that the rest of his life. He lived to be almost 70 years old. And the things that he accomplished is incredible. So what I did is nothing compared to what he had to go through and all that. So I think, I was on our school board for 11 years. We have 2 sons, just wanted them to have an opportunity. We lived on a farm. My sons, they didn't have to do all the things that I did. I guess we felt sorry for them, I don't know. But they somehow survived. I know my oldest son came home after his sophomore year in high school and said he wasn't going to play baseball, because our thing was we didn't care what they did, but whatever they did, they were going to finish it. Not when you got halfway through and say, oh, I don't like it. No. That's not the way it is. Once you start something, you finish it. And then if you don't like it, that's okay, but you finish it. So anyhow, he said he didn't want to play baseball. I said, well, that's good. Where do you think you wanted to work? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you're going to have some extra time and stuff. We'll find you a job here somewhere. He said, well, I think I'll do track. I said, that's fine. So anyhow, one of the things, and I'm kind of scrambling around here, but I just think of some of the things, and the reason I became involved on the school board, we built a log house. We live in a log house now in 1978. And the school district where we were used to be really good, and things kind of was heading in the wrong direction. And I think in a lot of school districts, the parents are the ones that can help things change, and the students. And so we helped that change, and I became a member of the school board just for a year, and I ended up being there for 11. But one of the things that we talked about, and I don't have it with me, but there was a study done by a school in Colorado, or a district in Colorado, this back a few years ago, and it talked about activities including football and band and the debate team and the speech team, and the rate of graduation in high schools. And our school, when I got on the school board, I think our graduation rate was 50%. And the school was run down, they had broken windows and stuff. This is not acceptable. We need to fix it. So we did that, and we, I don't know, somewhere along the line, the graduation rate got up to about 95%. They won state championships. The debate team went on debate things in other states. I mean, the thing was incredible. The kids had a lot of fun, and they're the ones that made it work too, because they're the ones that had to do it. So as a young person, I grew up, and I always didn't necessarily like what I was told, so I'd think about things, and if there's a way to help, not saying that you shouldn't believe and there are rules you have to follow, but you should think on your own a little bit at times, and not be afraid to challenge, maybe that's not the right word, but to think about how things can be better. So we do that. Let's see, what else do I need to say? We have 2 sons. My oldest both played at the University of Oregon. We're Ducks. I heard the Alabama people there. I have a son that is now coaching at University of Washington, was at at University of Tennessee last year, and Alabama kind of crunched the Vols, so, and a lot of other people. So anyhow, our sons graduated from University of Oregon, and they have jobs, and they complain a lot, but I don't really listen to them. But it is fun, and like I said, the young people of our country you're the ones that are going to make 10 or 15 years from now. I remember when I was in high school, I used to look at people that on Social Security, and I go, man, those are old people. Well, I guess we're here there now. Some of my Hall of Fame friends and I. So, anyhow, I guess Jerry, I don't know what else.
Yep, we'll go ahead and open up the questions we got about 35, 40 minutes here that you guys are going to have the opportunity to ask questions. We're going to go in the order. Let me read off this order just so you guys know. We're going to go in the order of Mountain Gap will be number 1, Washington Elementary, Aspermont, Cincinnati, and then Kit Carson. So we'll go in that order. But what I really encourage you guys to do, and if you you could tell in his remarks, is that I encourage you guys to ask those thought-provoking questions about what obstacles did he face. He already shared some, obviously. So you start listening to some of the things that he said. One of the things that stuck out to me that he learned responsibility at a young age, and he didn't learn it from just getting a job. They had to learn responsibility for their livelihood, for their own to feed themselves. So it was out of necessity, not just out of wanting to have some extra money or something like that. Having jobs. So. I encourage you guys to ask, those thought-provoking questions, because here's someone, you think about this, when you start thinking about the great linebackers today, whether it's, Ray Lewis or, whoever you consider as a great linebacker, they aspire to be in Mr. Wilcox's shoes someday. They hope that they can put that bronze jacket on someday in the Hall of Fame ring and have their bronze bust enshrined in the Hall of Fame. There have been 20,000 players that have played in the National Football League since 1920. There's only 267 members. Well, we've got 6 new members. It's going to be 273 here shortly, but 267 members that have their bronze bust on display here in our Hall of Fame gallery. So this is one of the greatest players ever. When you're watching all your favorite athletes on TV in the NFL, you saw the Super Bowl. Whether you're a Giants fan or if you're a front runner, well, I guess we do have one New York school, so you can be a Giants fan. That's acceptable. But all those players on those teams, they hope to be in his shoes someday and be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I encourage you to ask those questions, and we will go ahead to start the program off. Mountain Gap Elementary, go ahead with your question.
How many Super Bowl rings did you win?
How many Super Bowl rings have you won?
How many Super Bowl rings did I won? Well, we were close a couple times. I don't have any. But like Jerry said, there's 267 of these. And I'll take this. This is okay. I'm happy with that. Not that we didn't want to win the Super Bowl, but we just played the Dallas Cowboys too many times. And they beat us twice in the championship game. And they won. They were a better team.
But Mr. Wilcox, if you can allude on that, we all strive. You guys work just as hard as the Cowboys did in the off season and during practices and everything else. It wasn't a matter of commitment. What do you say to those students that maybe you didn't win the Super Bowl, but what about the student that maybe worked really hard but didn't pass their test or something like that? What advice do you have for them in those situations?
I'm going to tell you a story about my son's high school team. When my oldest son went to high school, their high school had lost 30-some games in a row in football. He was a freshman. And a new coach came in, and that's when all this, I was talking earlier, that's when all this stuff, we decided to help things change. And there was a kid that was a senior on the team when he was a freshman that the coach said, it's probably not going to work out for you to play, but we would like you to be our manager. And so the kid said, okay, I understand, and that he got to be manager. Well, the next year he had graduated and he was going to community college. He came back and was manager. The third year he came back, the high school team won the state championship, and he was a manager on that team. I saw him not too long ago. He now is a teacher and a coach. And he talks about how the coach brought him back and made him part of the team, something very special. So my point is, don't give up. Maybe it's not going to be exactly what you want, but somehow you're going to find the right thing and you will get there. You have to believe in what you're doing. I did a lot of things. I never had a real job. I just did things. I didn't have to get up and be there at 8 and leave at 4:30. I was very lucky, and there again, it's kind of how I grew up, I guess. If there was things to do, you did them. There again, going back, if we wanted to eat when I was growing up, you better get out and do the things, or you probably, there weren't going to be anything for you to eat or something. I've been a little far off here, but the thing for the young people is, and enjoy what you're doing today. And I'm going to back to, and maybe, I don't know about the younger guys, but I am a firm believer that you should do as many things in school as you can do. I don't care if it's marching in the band and playing in the football game and doing the debate team and being the calculus student. Do all those things, because you can't go back. We can't relive today. We got to do what we're doing today, and let's get that done, and then we'll move tomorrow. But don't go back, if that makes any sense. I don't know. Did I ramble on too much there?
It made sense, Mr. Wilcox. let's go
if
to.
If I don't, just tell me.
Okay. Let's go to California. Let's go to Washington. Thank you, Mountain Gap. Go to Washington Elementary. Do you have your question?
What qualities make a successful leader?
Great question.
What quality makes a successful leader? Well, I don't know if I didn't consider myself a leader. I just, I don't think you can put 100 people in the room and say, I want you, and you to be a leader. It just kind of happens. But I'm going to say that when I played, and I love team sports, and the reason I love it, I guess, is because you trust the people, your teammates. In football, the quarterback gets all the glory, but if you think about it, I think the center is the most important person on the team, because if the center doesn't snap the ball, nothing happens. And if the linemen don't block, the quarterback doesn't have time to throw it. So those people, it's the people that work and do all the hard work. You're the ones, you're important. Everybody's important in this whole scope of our life. We all can't do everything. But I thought my teammates, when I was in defense, the other 10 guys, boy, I loved them all, and I wanted them to be really good, because if they did, then I didn't have to do a lot, and I make things a lot easier for me. But just be yourself, and remember that you can't do this alone. You're going to have some help along the way somewhere, and somebody will help you.
And I think that's a great life lesson just in general. I mean, with someone that I think that's important to look at is that we all have difficulties in certain situations. If you're playing a sport and, you're having difficulty catching the ball, what are you going to do? You're going to go out and have 150 balls thrown at you each day to try and work on catching it. It's the same application in your schooling. If you have trouble in math, you got to meet with the teacher or tutor afterwards, after school or something, to work on becoming a better math student. So I think one of the things that you'll learn in life, and for you young people out here, is that no matter how great you are, you're always going to need someone to rely on. I mean, you are always. Dave Wilcox has not become a Hall of Famer if it's not for his teammates and some of the folks that he had to rely upon. He had a partner in business, that he relied, I'm sure, heavily on his off-the-field career. So that's really important to know. I think that's a great life lesson that Mr. Wilcox shared there. Let's go to Aspermont. Let's go to Texas.
How big of a role does good character play in becoming a professional athlete?
Well, there are characters today, but I'm not sure that's the right character we're talking about. I am really lucky to have grown up the way I grew up. I have some friends. We talk about this all the time, and I don't know how many of you kids that are listening that have ever been out in the country and do the things we got to do. I just feel like we were just very special, and we're blessed to be able to live where I lived and grew up. I've lived in the cities, but I always go back. We have a farm I live on. I have dogs. My nearest neighbor is like a half a mile away. So I mean, I don't know. I'd have a tough time living in the city. And I get the character, when I was growing up and things like, we never really talked about that, I guess. I just happened, and I guess that's why I, don't sit down and think a lot about this and why I should do things. And there again, I'm going to go back, how lucky I was to grow up in the environment that I had. If we had to do it over again, I'd do exactly the same thing. I want to do that. And, in today's world, with all the distractions and the things that happen to us in the media world and all of this, it's really tough for you guys, you young people. I understand that. But remember where you come from, your mom and dad, your grandparents, your brothers, your sister, your friends. You're all in this together. And so I don't know if I'm getting off line here, but just remember where you come from. And I think everything will work out.
And I think maybe if I was to put a summary to that, is that he talks about they didn't talk about these character qualities. They just did them. I mean, it wasn't something you really talked about. So I guess Mr. Wilcox is a great example of someone who doesn't talk the talk. He walks the walk, if you know what I'm saying. So I think he's a great example of. He just shows character in his everyday actions. When he shows up, he gets up in the morning at his farm or his business and is given 110% in everything that he does. He doesn't have to vocalize. He doesn't have to say it. You just know that about him. You know what you're going to get out of him. And I think that was the same way in his career with the 49ers, same way with his business career and other things. So I guess if I were to summarize Mr. Wilcox, it'd be kind of just he walks the walk. He doesn't need to talk the talk, right?
I guess.
And you guys can hear, that's the other thing too. You guys can hear how, if you guys look up the word humility someday. Many of you know what humility is. Mr. Wilcox is one of the most humble people you ever meet, and I think you guys are kind of gathering this here today. I think it's even hard for him to talk about himself, in this way. So, so you can just hear the humility in his responses as well. So that's another important character quality. Now, let me go from Aspenmont. If you guys go there, let's go to Cincinnati. Let's go to New York.
Yeah. What was your personal pregame ritual? How did you get amped up for a game?
Well, we're playing against the greatest players in the world, and I got a background, so I'm hearing myself talk.
Yes. Cincinnati, go ahead and mute your microphones because we're getting some feedback from you guys. Thank you.
Okay. Are we still there, Jerry?
Yes.
Okay. Anyhow, I didn't want to get blocked. I wanted to play the perfect game. So I was ready. I had great coaches when I was growing up, when I was in high school and junior college and college and in the pros. And they gave me all the information that I needed to be a good player. Now, I'm the one, and we did all these drills and stuff. You go, oh my God, why are we doing these stupid things? Well, all of a sudden down the line, you go, hey, I know why we did the drills. The coaches, they're trying to help you and stuff. But I would visualize, and I know golfers talk about this, and I'm not a very good golfer, but that's, thank God I didn't have to make my living doing that. I'd have starved to death. But anyhow, I guess it was making sure everything I was doing everything that I could do to be prepared. So that was it. I mean, I needed to know on a 3rd and 2, on a left hash mark, if the game we were behind by 3 or ahead by 3, and who was in the game and who was lined up. I needed to know where my feet were, and I knew that. I was prepared, I guess. So, you know, a lot of distractions and stuff. I didn't have any distractions. The first distraction, if you had distractions in football, somebody's going to probably hit you in this ear hole, and you'd probably wake up on the bench somewhere. I didn't want to do that. So, and I wanted my teammates to be prepared too, so I'd help them. You know, a good friend of mine, Cedric Hardman, played with the 49ers for a year, really a heck of a player. And I remember I saw him a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about that. And I used to kind of help Cedric along, maybe not yell at him, but encourage him to do things so all the guys wouldn't run down and hit us and run over us. So anyhow, it was the teamwork thing, but just being prepared. And I guess anything you do, you need to be prepared. I don't know, you guys are, I think, in high school, you need to be prepared to go, where are you going from now? Where are you going next year? You need to prepare today for whatever it is you're doing. And there can be a lot of different things. I've had all kinds of interests and stuff, and Jerry mentioned when I was in high school, I don't want to bore you young people with all this stuff, but I bought a car when I was a senior in high school, paid a couple of bucks for it, and that was back in the 50s. And in 1990, I decided that I wanted to remodel, and I went and found a 1930 Model A. Completely disassembled. I'd never done anything like this before. Completely disassembled it. Took me 6 years. I put it all back together, and actually it ran. My 2 Golden Labs and I used to drive around town in it. I loved it. But anyhow, I somehow got it all figured out, and with people's help and asking questions and stuff. But forge ahead, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Cincinnati. Let's go. Kit Carson, did you guys get reconnected? Are you guys there? Kit Carson, you guys were there earlier. No? Okay, well, let's go back to Mountain Gap. Let's go to Alabama.
Which quality do you think was most important in the success of your career?
What quality?
What character quality?
Well, I'm not sure. Luck was a lot to do with it. Being in the right place at the right time with the right makeup or something, I'm not sure. I don't know. There again, I'm going to go back. I was one of the most lucky people in the world to be able to get to do what I did. And that probably came from my parents, and my brother was blind. You know, talk about determination and stuff and what he had to go through. There again, what I had to go through is nothing. No matter what problem I had was nothing compared to what he dealt with. I played in a number of shrine football games. I've been to Shriners hospitals. We do this thing in Portland. They raise money for Providence Children's Hospital, who my brother was there back in the 50s, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. But my kids complained, and so I said, okay, we're going to the Shriners Hospital. I took them there, and then we went to the Providence Children's Hospital. There was 51 kids in the hospital between 18 months and 18 years old. Not one of them could sit up or turn over by themselves. And I said, don't complain to me about anything anymore. I mean, I guess it's compassion I have for people that, and this goes back to where I grew up and how I grew up, for the hardships that people have I mean, if you don't have enough money to buy a pizza today, big deal. You'll figure it out. And maybe that's it. Maybe you can figure it out. And I know that some of you young people probably don't understand what I'm talking about, but you will one of these days. I'll put it that way.
And I think, if we identify maybe one of those 6 pillars, the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, I think in that response, I think you heard him say compassion, you heard him say about his brother, determination, but you can also to tie into those pillars, I think you definitely hear caring and citizenship. I mean, having care for others and feeling like you need to give back to your community, because I guarantee you if we all had that Mr. Wilcox outlook of wanting to help people and be compassionate towards people, if we all took that and went back into our communities, just think of the 6 communities right here that we have connected right now. We took that compassion and caring back and did that outreach into into your particular areas. If we all did that, just think of how much greater it sounds funny to say it this way, but just think how much greater this country will be if we all have compassion, the type of compassion that Mr. Wilcox is talking about. So, Mr. Wilcox said that you guys are the future, and that's, I know that's thrown around a lot, and sometimes to some people going to be meaningless because everybody says, you guys are the future, you guys are the future. You hear it over and over again, but it's not meaningless. You are, and you have a chance to really change what's going on, here, and and I think it starts with compassion, having compassion for others. If you're selfless like Mr. Wilcox, I think you'll see a lot of things changing in this country. In a lot of different areas. But with that being said, let's go to Washington Elementary in California.
Really loud.
Is it hard becoming a pro athlete?
Louder, really loud.
Can you repeat that?
Really loud.
Is it hard becoming a pro athlete?
What did you say?
Is it hard becoming a pro athlete?
Yes.
Is it hard to become a pro athlete? I guess. I don't know. I never looked at it as being hard. I think I understand what you're saying. You feel fortunate, and maybe it is hard, but of all the people that start playing football when they're in Pop Warner and stuff, and then you go to grade school and junior high, and then you go to high school, and then you go to college. And from all of those hundreds and hundreds of players, there's only, I don't know, what is there, 40, 50 guys on a team now? So the 1,500 players out of 50 million, whatever it is, it would be hard, I guess, if that's what you think. I think you have to be in the right place at the right time with the right things, whatever those things are. And a lot of them are what Jerry was talking about and some of the things we talk about. But I thought I was lucky. I actually wanted to be a baseball player because I don't know, some of you young people don't know, but there was a guy named Harmon Killebrew. Harmon just passed away a year ago. And he grew up in Payette, Idaho, which is about 15 miles where I grew up, and he played against my brothers in high school. And we all wanted to be baseball players because of Harmon. And that didn't work out, but we ended up doing some football things. But anyhow, I'm not sure I know how to answer that, other than the fact, whatever you do is probably not easy. I know I'm sitting here with the people from Cisco, and I'm sure that they just didn't all of a sudden end up where they are. They probably did some things along the line. The people here at our school district, the teachers, they're just not teachers. They did a lot of work to get to be teachers to help you guys. Teachers, another one that I admire them. I mean, on the people that I think probably has the hardest job in the world today is the teachers, because they're the ones that are trying to help you guys and they're going the right direction and help you with the things that you want to learn. So pay attention to your teachers.
I think your teachers are all smiling right now out there, Mr. Wilcox, so I think they appreciate that. And I think what's important is you talk about, a lot of it was luck and good timing. But, let me give you an example of that. And Mr. Wilcox already talked about this earlier, is preparation. Because when that good timing comes up and it's your time to shine, you better be prepared at that point. And I'll give you an example. Someone like, Aaron Rodgers, for example, he sat in the shadows of Brett Favre for a few years. And when it became his opportunity to take over the Green Bay Packers, was he ready? He most certainly was. And look at him. Took him to a Super Bowl and is arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks out there right now in the National Football League. So preparation, going back to what Mr. Wilcox said, preparation is most important. So when those opportunities come along, those luck moments, as Mr. Wilcox says, or just good timing, that you are prepared for those. So let's go to let's see, that was who did we just talk to? Was that Washington? Let's go to Texas. Aspermont. Aspermont? And maybe they're having some technical issues. Let's go to Cincinnati, New York. Cincinnati.
Maybe they went to class.
Jeez, maybe they all fell asleep, huh? Maybe.
They went to class.
Oh, we're here.
Oh,
We're here.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry.
What was your greatest obstacle and how did you overcome it?
My greatest obstacle? I don't know. I guess I never looked at obstacles. I just decided that I wanted to be a football player. I was very fortunate that I got to do that because of, some skills I had along with my parents. That was probably the start. And then the coaches and stuff. But the obstacles, how many kids are in your class now? Where you are? Gee.
39.
39. You have 39 kids in your class. What grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
Senior in high school, and there's 39 kids in your class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, and where are you guys?
Cincinnati, New York.
Oh, okay. So you don't have a big class either. But, you can turn that off if you would, please. Thanks. I don't know. Obstacles are, I guess, what you make of them. There's certain things that this is a little bit harder than, it's not easy to do math, but I'm really good at English or, typing or something. Some of the other thing. I guess there again, I never looked at obstacles. There was things to get done, and you figured out a way to do them. And maybe we're talking about the same thing probably, but there again, and you're depending on people. If you need help, you're depending on your teachers, your mom and dad, your brother, your sister, your buddies, your friends, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever those things are. You just need to, you can't get through this life by yourself, and you're going to need some help, and you're going to help people. And I've been really lucky to have all of those things. So there again, I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but whatever you're doing, go for it. Don't be afraid to take on challenges and listen. You can listen and hear things, but you can make some decisions, but you need help with that.
Thank you, Cincinnatus, and I don't think Kit Carson got connected yet. I'm not seeing them here, but we've got about 10 minutes left, so we'll be able to go through one more round probably of questions. But Mr. Wilcox, I have a question for you. Out of those 6 pillars, the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, out of those, I know it's tough, out of those, which one do you think is the most important to you? and why? I know this.
Oh, I've been thinking about this for 2 months. However, because you said you're going to ask me that question. I don't know. It's hard for me to say one is more important than the other. I don't. I think if you're a good citizen, that all these things are part of that. And caring about people, I think you have to have all these other things. So I guess what I'm saying is that they all tie together. You got to have, if you're a good citizen, you're going to have respect, and you're going to give respect to people, and you're going to be fair with people, and people are going to be fair with you, and you're going to do the things you're supposed to do, and you're going to help people do the things they need to get done. So to answer your question, I didn't, other than the fact that this is about what life's about, I guess. When I went to school, we didn't have things like this, and we didn't even. I listened to the World Series when Don Larson threw the perfect game in 1958. I was in typing class in Vale High School, and I listened to the whole game in typing class. We didn't have televisions and stuff like we have today. So, anyhow, I don't think I can answer that question other than it's a whole bunch of things. It's kind of everything. That's what life's about, I guess, is doing all these things and being very fortunate. I'm sure I've done some stupid things in my life, although I won't tell my kids because they'll make fun of me. But I think we all grow up and learn, and if you have the right thought process, maybe, and you respect the other people and whatever it is they are, we're all in this together, whether we like it or not. I don't care where you came from, what nationality, where we are, we're here, and we need to make the best of it.
And yeah, you did answer that, Dave. You checked box number 7, all the above. So.
Okay.
So, thank you very much. We'll go Mountain Gap, Washington, and back to Cincinnati. So, Mountain Gap, go ahead if you have a last question.
Sorry. Did you have a role model growing up or a mentor? And if so, who was it and who did you look up to and why?
Well, my role model and my mentor and who I look up to were probably my brother that was blind, and my sister and my parents and all the people I grew. If you're talking about when I was growing up. And then as I went on, and I had my parents were, I don't know if I mentioned them, but my coaches and all the I had really great coaches. And along the way, I met some really good, I have good friends. Our kids all grew up. We've been friends for 50 years, and we're still friends. Well, some of us don't like each other now, but we just have fun. But we I guess, there again, I just kind of the way I grew up, and I was really lucky to have, my mom used to spank me with the broom, so I know you're not supposed to get spanked now, but I happened to learn some things, I'm sure, but with the broom, so we were just lucky to have really good parents and friends and family when I was growing up.
And I think that's another important note to make is that in order to be successful, you need to surround yourselves with successful people. I think that's one of the things that I hear. One of the recurring themes I hear in all these connections we've done with all these Hall of Famers is surrounding yourself with positive people. In some cases, it might not be your home environment. Some of us, unfortunately, don't get to grow up in environments like I grew up in Mr. Wilcox. But finding the right environment and surrounding yourself with quality people. If you want to be a great football player, surround yourself with football players that are better than you and that have the same goals of being a great football player. If you want to be, a math whiz, and surround yourself with people that are better than you in math, that are going to challenge you to achieve greater things. So I think that's important to note is that, if you want to be successful, you need to surround yourself with successful people that are going to challenge you to do that. So let's go ahead and go to Washington in California.
Go ahead, ask your question. What motivates you to become a great leader?
I don't know if I'm a great leader. There again, I just wanted to do what well, let me back up a minute. I wanted to be the best that I could be in whatever I did and whatever I do. And I continue to want to do that. I don't know, somewhere along, and I don't know if you guys understand what I'm talking about, but there was situations that I was in where I walked away from things, and I'm talking about, this is back 1960s and 70s, and I know a lot of you young people today will be in situations where you've got to make a choice. Say, do I go this way with these people, or do I trust myself and do the right thing? And what I'm saying is do the right thing, because I did that a number of times back in the 60s and 70s when all kinds of things were going on. And I remember being around a situation and I said, Dave, you need to get out of here and go somewhere else. And I did that. I didn't have to explain to anybody why I'm doing what I'm doing, but I didn't like the situation, and I just removed myself from that. So I hope you young people today will think about that.
And when you have the nickname Intimidator, I don't think anybody's going to question your choice, right?
I don't know where that came from to begin with.
So for the last question of the program, let's go to Cincinnati, New York. Go with the last question there to close the program, and we'll ask Mr. Wilcox for closing remarks.
All right. How important do you feel accountability is on and off the field, and did you feel obligated to be a role model in your position?
Well, I never thought of myself as a role model. I just wanted to make sure I did the right things. And I was just talking with the other group, and I'll tell you, you guys are in high school, right? You shake your head.
Yeah.
Shake your head. Yeah. Okay. I remember, and I was just talking to him, and I didn't bring this up earlier, but in the 1960s and 70s, that's when all the marijuana things and all those things were going on in the world. And I was in San Francisco, and that's probably where the whole thing was at its peak. And I remember my first encounter with a group, and there was a dentist that invited us to his house. There was 4 or 5 of us players and our wives. We go over there and have dinner, and they bring marijuana out. I get up, grab my wife, and says, we're leaving. And I walked away from that, and I called the dentist the next day, and I says, I'm really disappointed that you did that to me. And I says, so our friendship is ended. No more.
The conference is about to end.
And I know I got, chastised for doing that, but I didn't believe in that. So I just decided to walk away from things that are not important and are not right. And you need to do the right thing. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I had to say that.
Okay, well, you heard that's our 5-minute warning that our bridge is going to end. You're right. I see it's 1 o'clock here. So I think you guys have your mics unmuted there and getting feedback. Okay, we're good now. Mr. Wilcox, in 30 seconds or less, is there any closing remarks that you'd like to share with these students that maybe we didn't touch on?
Well, I don't know what we touched on. Kind of rambled around here in circles. But do the right thing. trust your teachers and your parents and do the right thing with them. Don't embarrass your parents or your friends or something, but listen and pursue your dream. And it's not going to be easy. Nothing's easy in this world. You got to work for it, and that's okay, because you'll enjoy it one of these days.
Okay, well, I want to say thank you to all
The conference is about to end.
For Cisco. I want to thank Mr. Wilcox. We can all unmute your mics for the time being and give Mr. Wilcox a warm round of applause and say thank you.